is up, Bomb Squad? Welcome to the BurnDown YouTube channel. Today has been a long time coming. For those of you that know, I came out with a brushless fan holder, and we've moved a decent amount of these things. They're getting good reviews. Everybody loves them. I actually had one guy tell me that it wasn't cooling his car, it didn't work, and then he went and spent $700 on a small plastic brushless fan, and then he wrote me back and said he had to change his settings to get that one to work, which tells me it was obviously incorrect and he just didn't figure that portion out. So with that being said, we are going to install my fan that I make, the fan holder with the Brushless Silverado fan. I'm going to go over some common questions, so hopefully I can send this video to people and kind of guide you along and answer and kind of walk and chew gum as we install this thing. And I will have a separate video on how to configure it. Today is just about the install, benefits of it, what I like about it, why we chose to do this. So let's go take a look at what we get in our kit and how we go about throwing it in your shroud. Ta-da! So here it is. This is the brushless fan holder that I designed, and we sell it through War Performance. So you can go to warperformance.com and pick yours up. And this one is really special because this was the first one, I believe, off of the first batch that we ever did. So I got better at welding a little bit on some of the other ones, but this was one of the first ones I put together. So I'm really excited. So this is #1 fan. And it was always supposed to go on my car, which is here. But we had an accident, and I finally get the car back together, and we finally have gotten this far. So if you are wondering what this thing does, and the reason it's magical, is it holds a stock Silverado, I believe it's 2015 to like 2019 fan. And in the Silverado, there's 2 of these. Either one will fit. It's the same bolt pattern configuration. They both fit. I believe one is a little more powerful than the other. I think it's really negligible, you know, so if you're buying it new, the one that's a little more expensive, I think has a little more power. If you want to spend the extra money, cool. Or if you go to the junkyard, you can figure out which is which, you know, and pull that. I would just pull both if you're doing the junkyard, because then you have one and you have a backup. Today's unit is actually a junkyard fresh unit. This is a tested one. It is known good. So we're going to throw this in because I don't have a lot of time to get a new one. And I'll be honest with you, I have a bunch of these laying around. So I have backups. If it goes bad, that's a nice thing. You can go to a junkyard and find these. So that is one reason we did this. The second reason, it is brushless, so it has soft start. It moves a bunch of air. This is the one thing that I will say about these, if you notice the blades, right? And this was brought to my attention actually by Devin Vanderhoof. I've been messing with brushless fans for a while, but he had some other brand, a brushless fan. We don't need to throw anybody under the bus, but the blades were thinner, right? And the thing would spin like all get out, but these are like bigger paddles. So what I would equate this to, and if you look at the even newer fan, the paddles are even bigger. I have one over there. And I believe, don't quote me because I'm not some scientist guru, but it's gonna be like torque, right? So if you have a thin, long, skinny, thin blade, yeah, it spins really fast. It's gonna be like horsepower and it moves air, but you're trying to pull air through things, right? So the fatter blade, I believe, is gonna be more, you know, the volume of air, I guess, is different. There's a reason they do it for OEM, because this is OEM. If the long, skinny blades spinning 1 billion RPM worked better, they would do that. But these things are built to pull air through a stack, just like this truck, right? You have all your coolers, you have your AC, you have your radiator, and you have the electric fans on the back side of that. So the blade design and everything is meant to move a bunch of air. Also, if you look at a mechanical fan, they didn't put little pinner blades on those things, right? They put big old paddles to move a bunch of air. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. You can go roast me in the comments, whatever you want. But the other reason we use this is the amp draw is fairly low. So an average guy can wire this up, not worry about burning stuff down to the ground. They do make bigger, badder fans that you can get, like the Z01 Camaro fan is probably the baddest fan on the planet. I think they use the same one in the JK Jeeps or whatever it is from Mopar. but that thing pulls a ton of amps. It's on an 8-gauge wire, as where ours is not. So speaking of wiring and putting this together, the kit actually comes with the holder. You'll get 2 pieces, and we'll show you in a minute why we did the 2 pieces and parts here, because everybody's like, why is there 2 of them, right? And then it comes with your pigtail, pre-wired, right? It's not terminated, that's your job, but it'll plug in to this connector, which is goofy because you're not going to find this, you know, just at your auto parts store or any random place. And then we went as far as giving you the hardware, right? So these thread into these holes. We also got you a tap, because if you get a new fan motor, these are not tapped. And you don't want to just try to run the hardware through because you risk breaking one off. Ask me how I know. So we included the tap so you don't pull a dummy move. And with the used motor, these threads have already been worked all the way through, but they don't go all the way through on the stock one. So you still want to run your tap through if you get a used motor to make sure everything's good. And then these bolts are a little bit longer than a factory, just to give you a little length on the bottom side. And then we include a little Loctite guy on there for you. So we got some blue for you, courtesy of everybody over at War Performance. And we have our hardware to mount it. And if you're wondering why there's 5, it's because we give you an extra, because life happens. You fumble it, you still have to go to the hardware store. So we got everything, a comprehensive kit, minus we don't know how you're going to terminate this. So wherever you take this, if you take it to battery, you take it to your starter, you're going to have to put your own lugs and figure out how you're powering this guy. And it can go to constant power. So I would fuse this. I would be on a 30-amp fuse, but this will go to constant power and then is kicked on and off with your signal wire. That brings me to signal and all of that stuff, if you're wondering. If you have an old school carbureted application, we do not have a controller at the moment. You can go on like Amazon and places and find it's a negative PWM out signal, and it needs to be 100 hertz, right? And then the strength of it varies the fan speed, but the cheap ones will fire the fan off. It's your discussion how you wire it in, how it works. If it lasts a week, a day, 10 years, I don't know. So if you have a great idea for a controller on these, if you're smarter than me in that regard, we would love to work with somebody or point everybody in the right direction, or maybe include it in a kit, if you know, later on. But as for now, we don't do that. We are geared towards the Holley crowd. Holley Terminator X, HP, Dominator, anything that'll put out a negative PWM signal, this thing will run on that. There are other aftermarket ECUs as well that will do the negative PWM signal. Any of the bigger good name brands will probably do fine. You're gonna have to configure that yourself. When I make my configuration video, it will be with Holley, because that is what we run. So let's cut these zip ties off, kind of show you how we go. We'll run the tap kind of in, just clean it up to make sure, and we will get the thing bolted down. I'll show you why there's 2 layers. And then also this thing, because people seem to get confused on this too. And I wanted to share this video before we started shipping these, but I want to show you how I'm going to configure it and why. So these are identical, right? It's the same thing. But I welded the edges, and then I weld through here, but I did not weld anything here. So that is why I went with the 2 of them. Granted, it would probably be strong enough like this, but the 3rd one kind of caps it off, and it's kind of like a beauty ring, and that's kind of why I did it. Because this way you're going to see the hardware, you know, and you'll kind of, it's not as aesthetically pleasing in my opinion. And then this doubles it, pinches it, gives you more rigidity. So that's why I went with the 2 instead of just the single, right? So the fan actually mounts from the bottom. So it comes in from the bottom like that. So let's do the old dance, right? And I will show you. Bam, so that is the fit. Like I said, I guess it's not the end of the world, but you see the different shapes of these. It just bothered me, right? My world, my design, so we capped it off, and I thought that was a little bit cleaner. So that is basically how the thing fits in there. If you have a new fan, like I said, you need to take and run your tap. So let's open this up. I'll just turn it in there so you guys can see. But these holes are clean, like I said. We've already run this guy to make sure life is good. Yeah. But you want to go ahead and clean it up and run it through there. Also, you will need tools-wise, a T30 Torx and a T25 Torx and a 10 millimeter. So the dudes on the fan are the smaller, the T25s, right? So that's those guys. And then the larger one is going to be the T30 that actually mounted to your shroud. So speaking of shroud, you're going to have to come up with your own idea. I know there are some cheaper options. You can just search Jag Summit. The reason I didn't come up with a shroud is because everybody's radiator size is different. And by the time I make it, bend it up, and then go to ship it, it'll be probably more expensive than what everybody else does, just because the shipping is going to kill us. So we don't do those. But again, you can also check with, if you have a fancy Champion Cooling Systems radiator like I do, they also make shrouds, and they sell spall fans, but you can get it without the spall fan. And I know they make a 16-inch shroud for the spall fan, and I believe this will work with that, right? You can just bolt this on top of that and call it a day, and then it'll match your radiator or any competitive radiator offering. And if they offer a shroud, just don't buy the fan package and you're good. I happen to just bend my own up, and that's how we roll over here. But if you need a shroud, figure that out for your application. Okay, got all the hardware out of the bag. Got my blue Loctite. I like to just put a little dab right at the beginning on the thread, and a little dab will do you. You don't have to get all crazy and flood the market with those things, right? And we'll do the same. These actually have nylock nuts on them, so you don't really need the blue. The blue is mainly for the hardware that goes in here. But you will see it's a pretty tight fit, I guess you could say, on here, but cheap insurance, right? You don't need your fan walking around. So I like to take mine, and then you put the little dab will do you on there on each one, and then we will move over, get our fan holder, put it in place like so, right? And then you get your top mount, which is funny, this thing is dusty because it's been sitting for a long time waiting for it today. So yours will be nice and shiny and new. But line them up, get all these started before you torque anything down, right? When you're installing bolts and you have multiple holes that all need to line up, you want to put everybody in, get them started so they're nice and, you know, straight, everybody's happy. You don't want to crank this one down and then try to find your next hole, because if it's off a little bit, you're just going to cause yourself problems. So maybe give it a little wiggle around. Like I said, these aren't welded, so you can see, you can look down and see if it's straight. If not, these arms will move, you know, a little bit. And that's another reason, like I said, to leave them all loose, because you don't want to cross thread nothing in, because then you're going to have a lot of problems. And after you run your tap through, as you can see here, you know, you can just kind of slide these dudes home with your fingers as far down as it kind of snugs up. Then when it gets far enough, you get your T25, send her on home. And again, all you Hulkamaniacs out there, it's threading into aluminum, so use your little baby wrench and, you know, use your kid gloves on this thing. There's no reason to smash it on home. I mean, you do you, but I want pictures if you run it all the way through and strip it and send it home, and, you know, don't call and complain to me if you're a knucklehead. That's your problem. All right, last one. There's only 3. I'm sure there's a torque spec if you really wanted to look at like the GM fans or whatever. I just use Dane torque. So you snug it till it's seated, right? And then you just give it a little boop. That's it. You'll feel it when it tightens up, and then go a little past snug. That's it. Bada boom, bada bing. Ta-da. And as you notice, we are off the table here, right? Granted, my table's all a warped piece of wood, but the fan itself does protrude past just a little bit. It's hard to see, and the reason I did that is you have a hole here for the fan, obviously, in the radiator. It gets this pretty close, but that allowed me to make this as slim as possible, but still give it room just in case it moves, that it doesn't actually contact your radiator. So if you're wondering now size-wise, let me grab a tape measure and measure this for you and show you guys, and then we'll keep rolling. As I said, I make all these hoops, so they're all going to be in the same ballpark. That's what this one is. and you're at about 16.5, right? And then for anybody that's going to spin this on the fan, you will notice that this thing is probably not 100% perfectly round. That is because it is a tri-rotor, and then when I weld them and you put them in there, you know, things move, stuff happens. The main thing is when you flip it around that your fan spins and doesn't contact anything. So this is the important portion. I haven't had that as an issue. I give it plenty of clearance on all the arms, you know, so we should be good there. But yeah, if you wanted to be a detective and spin it from the top side this way, it's probably not 100% circular. So if you want to point that out, don't bother. I know that already. Let's get on to the pigtail, and I want to show you what this is for. Here you go. It's just like a factory style plug. You know, it just plugs in and then clips on. Boop. Now here is what this is actually for. There's no arm down here because it's only a tri-rotor. So there's only 3 points of contact on the housing, and I use that as obviously a stiffener. So this is meant to do one of these and then throw a zip tie, right? That's what this little cutout is for. So when you get this thing plugged in, you can give this thing a heave ho like that, zip tie it, and go zip tie here, move it around, and then I'm going to take mine down this arm here. So now the wire is protected. You can go get some sort of sheathing or however you want to dress this up, maybe protect a little bit better some of that plastic stuff or some of the fancier cloth stuff. I will do that on this as well. But bend it up, zip tie it here, and then the only thing, you have that little piece here and then the fan is spinning, but it's not going to go anywhere. That was the whole idea with this little hang down piece, was so you'd have somewhere to attach with a zip tie. I didn't want to come down with a rod because more welding, more stuff, then it looked kind of goofy, to be honest with you. So we'll just go up and over, and then I always take mine to the starter. So if you come off on this side on my car, you know, you're facing this way, my starter's over here anyway. So whoop, that was the idea and thinking with that. So last step, we will throw it on the shroud. We will get a look at it, maybe slide it in the car, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Bada boom, bada bing. So this obviously looks like it's a mile away, but this tucks up over the radiator. So this is the width of my shroud actually. And I want to say it's 3/4. I would recommend a minimum, you know, of 1/2 inch is like minimal. And then that'll put this about 1/4 inch off of your rad. And then if you can go deeper, you know, 3/4, 1 inch would be wonderful. But again, it's up to you and how much room you have. So yeah, there she is installed. We'll go set it in the car and see how she looks. Bam. So that is that. She is in. I have little rubber isolators that we had to put in between all the mounting points. But yeah, you can see she's in there. If it fits, it ships. Everything is awesome. And then, again, that little hang down over there, we will tie the wire off, right? Let's see if we can see it again. Tie the wire off here. Where's my hand at? Tie the wire off to this guy, up, and then we'll go down this arm. And then I can take it from here, kind of keep it out of the way of all the hot mess going on. And then we can jump it over, get it out of the way, take it down underneath to the starter. Bob's your uncle. Life is good. So if you guys have questions, concerns, comments, please leave them in the comment section. I will do my best to answer them, and I hope you enjoy. If you are interested in one of these things, you want to keep your car cool, you want to look cool and support the channel, support me and my boys over at War Performance, go to warperformance.com, pick your kit up today, and then like I said, you can run a used fan, you can get a new Rock Auto fan, you can get a new one and then have a used one as a spare. And the other last point I will make, if you made it this far in the video, you could take the fan motor or the fan blade off, and then it's just the motor. So if you do drag and drive like I do, that is another benefit. So you can store that thing away and you have a full-on fan instead of having this big 16-inch or 15-inch or 12-inch big plastic chingadera you got to carry around. So that is that. I got plenty to do. Till next time, I'm out.
Rolling through the streets, yeah, I'm the king of the block. Got that drag and drive style, make your whole city rock. Malibu gangster, with a touch of finesse. I'm burning rubber, raising hell, feel the heat, no stress. Turbo LS, under the hood, I'm moving quick. Nicky tires grip the road, make them stick like a trick. She sloppy too, we got a hit in 08. In the War Performance park. marks all over the place. The bomb squad's on the scene, you two's going wild.